It's kind of, some days it feels like the world is very meaningless.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I guess that's the point. The world is meaningless. And so obviously God did not create it.
Right. And we attribute all this to it. So
actually, let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, I think for me, when stuff like this happens and we're recording the day after the impeachment hearings are over and Trump is acquitted, and this is actually the kind of thing that I go out and look for some sort of spiritual guidance about, because I find days like this really, really hard to hold on to even my belief in the course.
Yeah. Well, what I do is I go, oh, I've gotten really caught up in this, which, as we said, it's like a bowl of fish hooks. When you get caught up in that as reality, bad, this is really bad, oh my gosh, this is dangerous, then what the question I ask myself and what I put in myself is like, okay, you're feeling this, you're perceiving everything this way. Who's in the driver's seat? Like who's in the driver's seat on the inside? And that would be the ego, like the fear-based thought system. And so it's like, okay, I have to be ask for help and be willing to put my higher self, my connected self, this connected spirit in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and I think that's where it exposes, I know for me, my almost immaturity in my beliefs, because um, I I want to believe that I accept the fact that this world is not real and none of this had happens and nothing here can actually hurt me. But what I really want is just for nothing to hurt me.
Right. I want the outer world to make me happy. I want it for the outer world to tell me who I am,
or at least not destroy me. I mean, even if I'm not looking for sunshine and roses, I at least don't want Hiroshima. So, that's where I kind of pull up all of these. I think I don't want God to be Santa Claus, but I kind of do want God to be Santa Claus.
Right. It's like what you really are saying is, I want God to not be as big, all loving and amazing. I just want, a sliver of light, down in this hole. Can you just pare it down to just a sliver? And it's like, that's not really possible.
Mm-hmm.
I want to think myself small and less, and I just want that little tiny bit better. It's like,
yeah, I want you to come and take care of the bad things that might happen and just like block them from not happening. Instead of accepting the fact that they can't hurt me. It doesn't matter what they are. They can't hurt me.
right.
I'd rather they just didn't happen. Please. Thank you.
Right. And I think that's where all of us get caught at different times of, why is this happening? Like, if there's a God, he wouldn't allow this or that or the other thing. And it's like, as long as you're identifying it, you're identifying as a small self, which means you're a victim of the world. It all seems to be happening to you. Then, yeah, of course, you are, that ego is in the driver's seat. It means it's filtering your perceptions, warping your perceptions, and there's nothing the spirit, God, anything really can do without engendering more fear in you.
Now let's talk about that, because I know that there's something in the course where they talk about that um, instantaneous healing for a lot of people would just make you more fearful.
Right.
And on the face of that, you think, well, that's ridiculous. Of course, everybody wants. I mean, that's what we're saying we want. We want miracles. So why would what the world would consider to be a miracle make us fearful?
Yeah, that's a big bite. Yeah, let's let's just jump in there. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that while we do believe that we want that, we are afraid of that level of power. We are afraid of that level of I don't know. Sometimes I go that way with that. We're so wonderful and powerful and huge, and then there's other times where I think it's more that I don't want to carry this all the way to the logical conclusion, which is
Mm-hmm.
all of this stuff is going to get wiped away by death, but death isn't the end. It's just going to make another movie's going to start. So
Mm.
I guess at that level, there's nothing that can hurt me to that point that I can't get out of this situation. There is a way out of this situation. The way that God wants me to get out is through forgiveness. The way that the ego says is an out, well, at least you can die. You can always get out of it that way.
Right. And that's the ego's plan.
Right.
So that's what he wants you to
Right.
think.
So it can chase you straight to
And,
hell.
but this is what makes love really in any path a very radical thing because if you even look at Jesus, he's, you know, on the cross, he has been totally persecuted for being a loving, uh, kind, lifting, you know, uh, being. And there he is being crucified, which is a part of the story. But this, what he was doing is he's like, okay, watch this. Goes through the whole thing, gets crucified, and boom, there he's back. He's like, see, it didn't do anything. Like the we are not
Mm-hmm.
bodies. We are something beyond that. And then, of course, the ego mind of human beings get caught up in like the crucifixion part. It's like you can almost see and hear Jesus like doing a head slap, a palm, forehead, going, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
That's not what I meant. But
But that's the
it
duality.
is. And
That's
that's
the
kind of what I mean, that the logical conclusion is, okay, really, really bad things happen to you and they don't impact you. And I'm sitting here saying, well, I really don't want those bad things to happen. So I don't need you to prove to me that they can't hurt me. Let's just skip that whole part and make them
yeah.
not and make it not happen. And
But think about it. It's like you know what it's like to either through meditation or prayer or even just it just happens sometimes that you feel that expanded version of yourself, the open-hearted, loving. It's not hard to see the innocence in everybody. You feel connected, you feel peaceful. That you know what that is. And I think the difficult part is when you're not in that, then everything feels dark and alien. I just had a thread of a thought I'm losing, but um, you know, that's that connectedness and that you're not so concerned with your body and yourself when you're in that expanded version of yourself.
yes.
You're you're not concerned about the minutia. You're not because there's there is not duality. You are connected to everything. There's no chance of being orphaned because you would have to be separate to be
Mhm.
orphaned, and there is no separation. The course says you think you have many problems, but you only have one problem, which is you think that you're separate from spirit,
Mhm.
which is separate from
Mhm.
everything. And as long as you're going to cling to an identity, a story, a victimhood, a negative thought, any attack thoughts, the deep part of your mind is going to think that you are separate.
Yes. Yes.
That's just the way it works. So it's the reason that spirit, universe, however you want to say it, can't insert itself in there and help you is, or us, because we all do it, is we cling to this identity. We cling to the fear. We cling to this aspect of the fear or that aspect of the fear. Oh, but I am, cut off and alone and just in a body and all of that.
Hmm.
And as long as you cling to it, you can imagine the Holy Spirit cannot get in there and is not going to take it from you, because that would seem really frightening. That would just feel like death to an
Okay, so
ego.
that's where we come back around to the question of why instantaneous healing would be frightening. And
Yes,
that's really the ultimate answer, is it would feel like death to the ego who thinks that it is in control.
right, right. And it, it would rather have a really hideous, bad ride and be in control and quote unquote with a small k know what's happening, even if it has to make the movie really hideous to live
Mm-hmm.
in. It would rather have that trade off. But that's not what we want. That's not what we're hungry for, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
reality.
But it really is like all we'll tolerate, all we'll let ourselves tolerate.
Yeah, totally. And we all do it. We all, kind of fall off the wagon at different points, and it takes a hot minute to go, oh, I forgot. Like, here I am, like going down this rabbit hole, towards hell, and it's like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Let me back up and let me take care of the inside
Mm.
stuff, so that I don't need the world to do or not do
Mm.
anything. Like, let me do this dance and this communication with spirit, so that I really feel and get to the place where I have the peace and everything. And that really frees you up from the world, and then it can be transformed. But as long as you need the world to do it, spirit has a really difficult time getting in there.
And that's so interesting to think about. Why is that hard? That feels harder than it sounds simple. It sounds, yeah. Why would we not
It
be
is
doing this
simple.
all the time?
It's simple, but not
Mm-hmm.
easy. And um, well, it's as easy as you will allow it to be. And we just don't choose actively. We get on autopilot, which is the ego, and then there we
Mm-hmm.
go.
Mm-hmm.
And autopilot is the autopilot to hell. And the course says that it's like you're one of our big problems is that we're too, what is it, a mind wandering? We're
We're too tolerant.
too tolerant of mind
Mm-hmm.
wandering, and that mind wandering keeps us trapped.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I read this. There was an email that came through yesterday or the day before about that um, we are willing to watch what we think a tiny little bit of the time, and even then, not really watching it very carefully, but uh, we'll give it the meditation time, we'll give it the prayer
Mhm.
time, and then all the rest of the time we spend not watching what we think, or actively
Yes.
not choosing with spirit.
I mean, and you can look at it in different contexts, but you've heard about this dopamine fasting now that they're talking about? They're, especially with smartphones being as central to our lives as they are now, but really everything in our lives, we're hooked on this dopamine trigger in our brains from stimulation with our phones, all the input. And so I think it kind of started in Silicon Valley, and it's Silicon Valley, not Silicon. And they do a thing. It's kind of meditation esque. It's they put the phones and the gadgets away. They turn off their communications. They don't do TV. They don't do anything that's very stimulating. No stimulating reading, all of that. So it's a fast, so that your body gets used to um, real peace and not being stimulated and numbed out.
Hmm.
And I thought that was really interesting because, of course, saying how we are about mind wandering, it's like we're in it deep now. We're deep in the mind
Right.
wandering. I'm probably more guilty than most
Well,
people.
I mean, all of us are. And here's the thing that we as human beings have been gradually upping the dopamine. Like it isn't a function of having a smartphone. Like this is what human beings have always done. We tell stories. We um, hunt wild
Yeah.
animals. All these things that we do to give us a little bit of a spark. So, like
Yes.
reversing that and trying to say, all right, well, I'm not gonna allow myself any kind of dopamine. That's an interesting outward
But
outward symbol of what you're trying to do inside.
yes. I mean, because we're actually addicted to the fearful thought system. We're addicted to the fear. Like if you look at it from a
Mm-hmm.
dopamine way, we're addicted to that charge, and so you got to move through just a hot second of putting that down, so that you make room for something else to come in and inform you who you are. You know, in your mind, in your body, in your
Mm-hmm.
emotions, and we've gotten really, really good at
Yeah.
resisting that.
And when you think about it, that's pretty much all that we do. That's everything that we do.
Yeah. I mean, I have gotten way rabbit holey with the politics. And I think, I think it's important to be informed about it, because I think it helps all in helping everybody to do the right thing politically. But I think there's a difference between being informed and, you know, glazing over and getting on Twitter and be like, oh my God, get the kids, get in the
Well, I mean,
basement.
that's the whole thing. Like, if being informed is different from choosing sides, which uh,
Mhm.
that's pretty much what we do is we are informed so we can know is our side winning. And
Hmm. Hmm.
really, it doesn't make any difference which side you're on. You're doing the same thing.
Well, it doesn't matter which side you're on, because you're
Right.
believing in
Exactly.
sides. You're believing in
Exactly. And
duality.
that bothers
That's
me as much as
rather,
anybody else. Like I don't want to hear that the other side is the same as me. I don't want to hear that I don't need to be pitting myself against, because that is the whole idea of you stay informed because we need to know, because we need to make sure our blah 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 isn't being eroded, or the other guy's winning, or whatever it is. That's We take something that can be perfectly neutral, just hearing what's happening, and we treat it as we don't. It's not neutral.
yeah, absolutely. We give it all this meaning. We give it all this, fear based, separated meaning, either
Yes,
good or bad.
every single freaking
And
thing.
totally. And, that's like you see different egomaniacs. And they're usually at their worst, when they're winning, because why would you not play that game if you were
Mm-hmm.
winning?
Yes, and that's another interesting thing to think about. Like, do you? Why doesn't spirit just let us have what we want? Wouldn't that be? I mean, if all of this is meaningless, then why can't we just have it the way that we want it? And I know you and I've talked about this a million times, and you've said this to me many times, that you can have anything you want as long as it doesn't get you deeper into the illusion. And that's the problem. Getting what you want does bring you deeper into the illusion.
Well, even on a deeper level, it's the universe is not even keeping you from getting what you want within this 3D reality. The problem is that we have such split intentions about what we want that we go in one direction and we go in another, and mine goes over here,
Yeah.
and that, most of them are opposites. And, that's how unstable the ego
Right.
mind is.
Right.
And, you know, we
So
do it
even
to
once you've got what you
ourselves.
want, you realize that, oh, actually, that's not what I wanted.
It's like, that didn't do what I thought it was
Come
going
on,
to
bring me
do.
something else now.
Yeah. Hedonic treadmill. Now you're off, like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's like none of that's going to, as my great friend Di says, she goes, none of that's going to fill the gaping
Yeah.
hole. You get it. You just settle into it, and then it's like, oh, this gaping hole isn't what I thought it was. It's really kind of
Hmm.
fine.
Hmm.
But we're running from it and trying to fill it all the time. It's like, it's a lot. I think we're just
I know,
depressing
right?
anybody
I don't
who's
know if this is
listening
being
to
very
this
helpful,
podcast.
but I guess that's the thing is for me, the most important, I guess the thing that does help is talking to another human being that isn't running to the basement and barricading themselves in. Like, yeah, this is, here's something else that I'm looking out at and I don't like it, but it isn't doom.
Right, right.
Or it is, but it's no more
It's
doom than anything else.
right. And I think the tools that the course offers, this is where it really boils down to willingness. Am I willing to put down the red hot poker for a second? Am I willing to um, open myself up to see and think a different way? And so often we're not willing. I'm not. I do it in fits and starts throughout the day,
Yeah.
um, which I'm even grateful for that
Yeah.
at this point in my life.
Yeah.
But that is really at the crux of it. It's just having a little willingness to have your mind changed and to reconnect to your real self, so that everything can be shifted for you, starting with the inside, not starting with the outside. And I'm not saying that things don't happen on the outside that can shift us, but generally it's an inside job.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the tough part is I want to be able to look around and see the outside stuff changing.